Okay, this is the blue trail off the parking lot. It actually heads over towards Tower Hill. It's part of the Highlands Trail, which is a quad trail state hike. Reaches from Connecticut to Pennsylvania now. It uses a lot of parks along its trail path, Jugtown being one of them, but it does also involve a bit of road hiking as well. The blue trail is where the remains of the old mine site is, but we'll be doing the interior trail of Jugtown for our hike. In front of me is a box turtle. The patterns on the turtle shells are distinctive. This is actually one that just got rescued out of one of the mine sites here. It fell into an old foundation and I just pulled it up. But again, these are our most terrestrial turtles and probably the most common one that people have encounters with. If you do encounter one, I would request that you try to resist the urge to pick it up because it is in its habitat. Think of how you'd be if you were yanked out of your bed. And again, these turtles are a species of concern. Their populations are declining because many people have taken them home as pets, and they are not permitted to be pets. They are a native animal. But real quickly, there is an old wise tale about how you tell the gender. If it has a red eye, it's a boy. If it's a black eye, it's a girl. It's true about 90% of the time. However, the real way you tell is by looking underneath. And if it's got a dimple into the bottom shell, it's a boy because of needs that the male has when he needs to do his deed. Again, American box turtle, a species of concern in Hunterdon County. The only time you don't put them back where you find them is when they're crossing the road, and then put them to the side that they're facing. This is the foundation site of the old magnesium mine that was in the property, and I apologize for the downed trees on top of it. It goes back, I believe, to the late 18th century. It was called the Swayze Mine. It was mined for magnesium. It was last operated during World War II, and that's what these foundations are from. Because all magnesium and then another mineral here called magnetite, which iron can be gotten from, was needed for the war effort. These pits do serve as habitat. They act as vernal pools, and unfortunately, like I said, the box turtle did get caught in one of them, and the one he got caught in, he could not get out of. Okay, this is the other side of the parking lot, the white trail, the old service road that goes down to 173 and then has the spur of it to do a loop, which we'll be doing. I would rate it as a slightly moderate hike because depending on how you do it, if you go down the spur first and come back to the service trail to come back to the parking lot, you are dealing with a quick elevation change. Probably about 150 feet over a relatively short distance. If you do the service road down to the second spur, you will have a more gradual hike. But it's a nice sunny day, early in the morning. A lot of the common birds are calling. This large mound is a spoil pile from the mining days. This was the material that was processed and was not desired. It was piled off to the side of the mine's activity. There is a large vernal pool, one of the little sinkholes that's developed from the mine days in front of it. Again, it was magnetite that was primarily mined for magnesium and a bit of iron. And if you do take a magnet to this pile, you can find some low-grade magnetite still hiding amongst the material in the pile. Okay, hopefully you're hearing that sound. I'm placing it somewhere over by the second white log that you might see in the picture, but I don't actually have it. But it's not a bird call. It's the alarm call of the eastern chipmunk, and just wanted to point that out in case some people are making a little mistake that it's the call of a bird. Okay, there is a bird calling in front of me. Okay, just went. It's one of the warblers. There is a nice dense understory in Jugtown. Again, I don't have it cited, but I believe the call to be that of the hooded warbler. This is a good park to walk for warblers, especially because of the dense underbrush for those types of warblers. It's actually where I got another warbler as one of my lifers called the Kentucky warbler. Okay, again, some of the spring flowers are up. There's been mayapple, violets, unfortunately garlic mustard around me. But my colleague Laura is more of the wildflower expert, but this has been one of the common ones that's been seen in the park. If I am correct, it's rue enemy, and forgive me if I mispronounce that, but it is a common spring flower in the woods. Basically a white little flower dotting the sides of the trail. This little sapling in front of me is actually the largest member of the Caprifoliaceae family. It's an opposite branching plant structure. It's called blackhaw. Kind of makes some people think a little bit of dogwood, but if you notice, if I can get in a bit closer, it's much more twiggy with its branching. It's not as open as a dogwood. And again, you can see some of the opposite branching pattern to it. The bark, when it gets a little bit bigger, gets very sort of corky, very rough shaped. But again, it is a native and common understory in the forest. In front of me, I'm focusing on the grapevine. It's one of our native vines. They kind of cheat, as I joke with kids. They don't grow the hard trunk, but instead use their tendrils to climb up into the tree canopy, where they will eventually leaf out, and then start stealing some of the light that's meant to get to the tree. But as trees fall, it doesn't mean that the vine's gonna die. They just hopefully have enough tendrils and branches out that they can start climbing up another tree. Vines can live very long. I've seen some grapevine that I would probably estimate at 70 to 100 years. But again, this is our native grapevine. See if it'll call one more time. Okay, in the top of this tree, believe it or not, there's a little small songbird. It's one of our spring arrivals that will breed here. You may actually have it around your house, but that's the call of the house wren. And it just took off and I didn't see where it went. Okay, the centipede that I'm looking at. Centipedes are one of the isopods. They're not an insect. They have multiple legs per body part. They are going after insects that are decomposing material, the logs, the leaves, and turning it back into soil. Those decomposers are important to the environment because, again, they're generating the new soil. Over here, and make sure I'm on it, there's a lead-back phase of the salamander. The redback salamander, there's no red on this one. I briefly touched on this back in the Sarlins videos. Again, I'm trying to find new information to talk about. Again, this is another predator trying to go after insects to eat that are decomposing the material. This is our intersection that we're going to create our loop on. If you continue straight on the Highlands Trail, you end up on 173, down about another 200, 300 feet in elevation. That's probably too much, maybe another 150. But we're going to make the turn here and continue on, and we're about halfway through our walk. Okay, this is another one of the understory shrubs. This is spice bush, just really putting out its leaves that are generally oval, much more open than blackhaw. It's signs of a regrowth forest. But the cool thing about spice bush is if you take a single leaf when they're fresh and rip it, it will give you a nice fragrance out of the leaf. They can almost be used to create your own native potpourri to scent a room. Okay, I hope this comes off, but this just hopefully might give you an idea that Jugtown Mountain is a mountain. I'm holding the camera even with my eyes, and as you can see the trees in front of me, you're not seeing the ground. I'm pitching down about maybe 40 degrees now with the camera to give you an idea of the slope here that we're walking along on the trail. Jugtown Mountain's name comes from folklore. It's often been said that moonshining jugs were placed on the hill for various clients to come and pick up their jugs, respectively. The largest rock, I believe, is supposedly here called Mary's Rock, and there is a info sign that you can see for the rock off of 173 as you're going down the hill. Again, that will also give you a feel of the height of Jugtown Mountain when you drive down that hill. In front of me is one of the old stone walls you'll find in the park. It's actually proof that there are no virgin stands of forest in New Jersey. Again, my old dendrology teacher from my college days made reference that every stand in New Jersey has been cut at least once. Some have probably been cut as many as 10 times. A lot of the land was opened for farmland, and again, stone walls formed from them harvesting the stones out of the fields as they prepped them for plowing. Finding a stone wall in the midst of a forest indicates probably a field edge of an old farm field, property line. There's many reasons why the walls formed, But again, either side or one side of this at one point was tilled as agricultural land. Much of our stands today are probably only about 100 years, 150 years old, as they've regenerated as farmland has been let go, because we're not the agrarian society that we once were. Okay, in front of me is our state tree. As stated, I've been trying to find new things to always talk about and not repeat what's been in some of the other parks, but they do carry over to various parks with some of the clips. But this tree here is northern red oak. If you look at the bark, you'll see these long, thin straight lines or flat areas to the bark. We jokingly call these ski trails, but they're a classic field mark for the northern red oak. You do need to say northern red oak because there is a southern red oak in New Jersey down in the coastal plains.